Hello, everyone, and welcome to Literary Tales. I'm your host, Paul Krause, and in this episode, we explore the themes of love, politics, and tragedy in William Shakespeare's most famous play, Hamlet. Shakespeare, that immortal bard from Stratford-upon-Avon, is well regarded as the English-speaking world's greatest dramatist and, arguably, the greatest dramatist in the history of human civilization. But Shakespeare is also a deeply political thinker. In fact, political commentary pours through the lines in his many plays, especially his tragedies, the most famous being Hamlet. In this review of Hamlet, we will explore the theme of politics, tragedy, and love. The reason for this is Hamlet is one of Shakespeare's greatest, if not greatest play, and is often a standalone and deeply relevant work to our world today, and is a play that even if one hasn't read, is probably familiar with. The themes that it covers are all important, and extremely important considering the continued relevance of fraying social decay and cultural trust throughout the modern world, something that Hamlet intimately deals with. And within this world of fraying social and cultural trust, the politics of paranoia and tyrannical surveillance, that is the world in which Hamlet is set, and we still find the great tension between love and lust, politics and power, and the relationship between love and politics, lust and power, and how it impacts our lives. Reading Hamlet should immediately reveal the politics of paranoia that run through the play. The play opens with two inconsequential sentinels, Bernardo and Francisco, before giving way to more important characters, Horatio and Marcellus. Something strange has been occurring, and Horatio has arrived to investigate. Horatio's entry into the play, which pushes the play forward, is brought forth by rumors, the whistling, whispering, and hissing swirls that often intrigue our lives. Although, in this instance, the rumors turn out to be true, but the dramatic beginning of the play foreshadows the reality of cold and dark whispers that move the play to its tragic conclusion. When the men encounter the ghost, Horatio demands it to speak, all to no avail. The ghost exits. The men immediately consider the worst possibility for interpreting this encounter. Horatio foreshadows the ominous nature of the play after the ghost vanishes through his famous line, "In what particular thought to work I know not, but in the gross and scope of mine opinion, this bodes some strange eruption to our state. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark." The strange eruption to our state and the rotting problem in the state is what the rest of the play ultimately deals with. King Hamlet, as we know, has recently died, and the ghost is his apparition. King Claudius, aptly named after the Roman emperor, has made his bid to the throne in murdering his brother and subsequently marrying Gertrude, therefore ascending to the throne. We become aware, through the ghost of Hamlet, that Claudius murdered him because of his lust for Gertrude and the lust to wield crown and scepter, the ultimate manifestation of political power. Claudius's marriage to Gertrude is not out of love, but out of the pursuit of power and self-pleasure. Lurking in the background is the feud between Denmark and Norway over land, which is boiling up to erupt in war. Compounded to these fears are the worries of Polonius that the young Prince Hamlet is madly in love with his daughter Ophelia. Ophelia informs her father of Hamlet's suggestive behavior and love letters. Polonius offers to prove his loyalty to Claudius by spying on the young prince, thus serving both Claudius, but also serving his own end to prevent Hamlet's love for Ophelia. But it is Claudius's fear, his paranoia, that Hamlet will take revenge for his father's murder by killing him, that drives his antagonism towards the young prince to rid himself of that perpetual threat by his side, the reality of a legitimate politics, a legitimate heir taking back what has been stolen. Polonius, therefore, is but a pawn in a larger and more sinister game, even though Polonius thinks himself a remarkably sly and sinister individual in of himself. Shakespeare does a remarkable job in presenting politics as no pasture for saints. It is the domain of those sad and sorry humans inflicted with the primal eldest curse, a reference to Cain's murder of Abel, that ultimately destroys their souls and brings them to an unrelenting grip for the pursuit of power. Love, we begin to realize, is absent in the political scheming and skullduggery that consumes the state of Denmark, and the pursuit of politics, whether it be by the king, by Polonius, even by the young prince Hamlet, leads to the desiccation and the destruction, the impossibility of love from taking place. So paranoid is Claudius that he effectively establishes a police and surveillance state to control every aspect of life in the palace, which can be analogous to our modern-day countries today. And how relevant is Shakespeare, given that we ourselves often live in a police and surveillance state that controls every aspect of our lives. Polonius, through fidelity to Claudius and fear of Hamlet's love for Ophelia, is enlisted as a spy, just as many of our own neighbors are enlisted by the spies of bureaucracies and the federal government to spy on neighbors we don't like. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, two childhood friends of Hamlet, are also conscripted in this game of spies as they betray their friendship and memories with Hamlet in service to Claudius. Politics destroys even friendships. And how true it is, most of us today also know of the reality of how politics destroys friendship. Not even the sacredness of friendship and those joyful memories of the past can keep relationships from dissolving into utilitarian contracts. Claudius, for instance, doesn't care at all about Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Claudius merely contracts them for his service. What happens to them is equally unimportant to Claudius, so long as Claudius's scheme to dispatch Hamlet succeeds. I should also point out here that as the second act comes to a close, Hamlet is also counter-spying on Claudius, and is very much bound up in this game of spies, as all the villains are. Hamlet, however, is not without suffering the degradation of the rotten sins of the Danish state and the brutal machinations of power politics inside the prison that is Denmark under King Claudius. En route to England, Hamlet grows suspicious of his former friends and rewrites the letter instructing the executioner to kill the two disposable spies and, in a battle against the pirates, flees back to Denmark, leaving Rosencrantz and Guildenstern for dead. And die they do. But rather than offer any hand of forgiveness or redemption to his former friends, Hamlet abandons them to the fated contract they signed up for. We may feel Hamlet justified in his actions toward Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, but in his rather callous actions, though lesser perhaps in comparison to Claudius, we come to see how truly changed Hamlet has become due to his enslavement to the politics of power and revenge. Ironically, the security surveillance state that has been erected to keep Claudius in power fails him. The realm of the political, if it is to survive, must shed itself of the spying apparatus that constricts it. Thus, Polonius is killed by Hamlet, though Hamlet thought he was killing Claudius in the spur of the moment. As hitherto mentioned, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are also shut off and later die. In the end, the very elaborate system of security and spying that Claudius has built has done him no ultimate good. His crime is eventually revealed, and he pays the ultimate price. At the same time as Shakespearean irony reveals the limits of the security surveillance state, the tragic element of the play is seen in the deaths of Ophelia and Hamlet, our two star-crossed lovers who did in fact love each other but could not consummate their love because of the sinister, poisonous well of the politics of security surveillance tyranny that consumed Denmark. Ophelia, as is clear in the play, loved Hamlet, and Hamlet loved Ophelia. Whatever possible love the two had for each other sadly could not be consummated because love is driven away by the madness of politics. Ophelia committed suicide rather than having drowned in her own madness. But in some way, it was the madness that caused her to drown, which is, in reality, her suicide. Madness, the loss of love, the grief and suffering that comes with a love unconsummated, drove Ophelia to death. Hamlet, for his part, did love Ophelia, despite the debates in some scholarly circles over whether he did or did not. The most clear reality that Hamlet loved Ophelia is when Hamlet is constantly declaring his love, not in those moments of madness, but in moments of ironic truth. The ironic truth that Shakespeare inserts into his play that we pick up on as readers and that audiences would have picked up on watching the play. As Hamlet cries out, "I loved Ophelia. 40,000 brothers could not, with all their quantity of love, make up my sum." That is a true moment of love's declaration by Hamlet upon hearing the news of the fate of Ophelia. Hamlet truly did love Ophelia, and the loss of Ophelia means that Hamlet has nothing left to live for. In happier and more tranquil days, Ophelia would have been queen to Hamlet, and the two would have gaily spent their lives together. However, it is not Hamlet's destiny to be wed and live the happy life. He must deliver the state from the constructive and enslaving machine that Claudius has built, even if it denies him the love of the heart that he has for Ophelia. As such, Hamlet is fated to a loveless life like everybody else in politics. For that is what Shakespeare is revealing throughout the play about the brutal nature of politics and the emptiness that it carries. Politics forsakes love, as politics is about power. Again, Claudius usurps the throne not out of love for Gertrude, but out of lust. Lust for Gertrude and the lust for power. Polonius himself loses all that he loves in his life, including the time he has with his daughter, because he too is consumed by the politics of power and paranoia as he is enlisted to spy on Hamlet. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern forsake their love for Hamlet in being contracted to serve Claudius. And Hamlet, as he is the fated instrument to deliver the state out of the hands of the brutal tyrant Claudius, he too must forsake love and loses the love of Ophelia. And Ophelia, that tragic woman in the play, loses love too because of all the machinations of politics, preventing the possibility of love to consummate itself in life. Shakespeare, however, is not an anarchist regarding the state. The state must survive, as we've said, and it must be restored, but it must be restored to legitimacy. While those who occupy its halls of power will be miserable creatures without love, the state plays an important role in facilitating the happy and loving lives that the rest of us can create outside of the halls of the politics of power. As such, Hamlet is the tragic hero whose destiny it is to restore the state to its proper condition by destroying the intrusive security surveillance state which prohibited civil society and human-to-human relationships, those relationships of love, from flourishing. And it is here widely argued that Shakespeare was making an esoteric commentary on the Elizabethan police state in his day, and we can carry this forward to our world today. We know in our own lives that the intrusive security surveillance state, one similar to the one that Claudius built in Hamlet, is a state, is a politics in which love cannot flourish and cannot consummate. We also know that in destroying this intrusive security surveillance state, in restoring civil society and the freedom to love, that love has the possibility to succeed. And so, Hamlet does ultimately succeed in destroying the intrusive security surveillance state, but so too does Hamlet die. Hamlet dies at the end of the play because he must. The political life, as Shakespeare is telling us, chases away love and therefore cannot give life, but can only serve to protect life. There is a difference between giving life and protecting life. Politics is a tragic enterprise, according to Shakespeare. It is, however, a necessary one, and that is why it is tragic. And the tragedy of Hamlet so perfectly captures the maturity and the insights of Shakespeare. Politics is a miserable, loveless life, but unfortunately, it is a necessary one. Hamlet is a tragic hero. Others are villains. But the heroes in our political lives and our political world are not without their faults. Hamlet has many. We also see in Hamlet Shakespeare's commentary, which carries on throughout so many more of his plays, which we will cover in other episodes, the contest between love and politics. How politics chases away love, but love, and only love, has the power to redeem our world, our souls, and our political fortunes. As we continue examining the plays of Shakespeare, we will focus in on this particular theme, the theme of love, politics, and tragedy, as we continue looking into the great and wonderful mind and world of Shakespeare, a man who is not only a literary giant, but a man who also has much to teach us about the nature of politics, the nature of the human soul, the nature of human life itself.